The grand courtroom of the Supreme Court hummed with a tense undercurrent, its marble pillars standing like silent sentinels under the weight of history. The gallery was packed, reporters scribbling furiously, their pens scratching like whispers of a coming storm. At the center of it all stood U.S. Representative Jasmine Crockett, her posture defiant, her eyes sharp with resolve. She wore a tailored navy suit, her signature bold earrings glinting under the chamber's lights, a symbol of her unapologetic presence. Across from her, Chief Justice John Roberts presided, his black robe a stark contrast to the gleaming wood of the bench. His face was an unreadable mask, but the faintest crease in his brow hinted at the gravity of the moment. The case had begun as a routine review of a congressional ethics violation, a minor procedural dispute over campaign funds that had spiraled into something far larger. Allegations had surfaced and unsubstantiated, yet relentless, claiming Crockett had misused $200,000 in donations, a charge she vehemently denied. The media had seized the story, spinning it into a spectacle, and now here she was, summoned before the highest court in the land. Whispers of political motivations swirled. Some said it was a targeted attack to silence her rising voice in Congress. Crockett's legal team, a trio of sharp-eyed attorneys, flanked her, their briefcases stuffed with documents proving her innocence. The room buzzed with anticipation as Roberts cleared his throat, his voice steady but carrying an edge that silenced the murmurs. "Representative Crockett," he began, "the court has reviewed the evidence and finds sufficient cause to impose a fine of $200,000 for the alleged misuse of funds. Do you have anything to say before the ruling is finalized?" The gallery gasped, a collective intake of breath that seemed to suck the air from the room. Crockett's attorneys leaned in, urging caution, but she waved them off with a subtle flick of her hand. Her eyes locked onto Roberts, unwavering, as if she could see through the robe, through the title, to the man beneath. She stepped forward, her heels clicking on the polished floor, each step a declaration of her refusal to be cowed. The weight of the fine was staggering, enough to ruin most, but Crockett's face showed no fear, only a fire that seemed to grow brighter under scrutiny. She adjusted her stance, shoulders squared, and began to speak, her voice low but resonant, cutting through the silence like a blade. "Chief Justice," she said, "I stand here not just as a representative, but as a woman who has fought every day to be heard, to be seen, to be respected in spaces that were never built for me." Her words carried a rhythm, a cadence that drew the room in, every ear straining to catch what came next. Reporters stopped writing, their pens froze, and even the clerks, usually mechanical in their duties, paused to listen. Crockett's voice grew stronger, each syllable deliberate, as she recounted her journey. Born in St. Louis, raised by a single mother, clawing her way through law school, then into the Texas legislature, and finally to Congress. She spoke of the countless barriers she'd faced, the slights and dismissals, the assumptions about her worth based on her race, her gender, her unapologetic blackness. "This fine," she continued, "is not about evidence, it's about power. It's about silencing those who dare to speak truth to power, who dare to challenge systems that have stood unchallenged for too long." The gallery stirred, some nodding, others shifting uncomfortably, but all were captivated. Robert's face remained impassive, though his fingers tightened slightly on the gavel, a telltale sign of the impact her words were having. Crockett's attorneys exchanged glances, sensing the shift in the room, the way her presence seemed to fill every corner. She spoke of the donors who trusted her, small-dollar contributors who believed in her vision, not corporate giants but teachers, nurses, and barbers who saw her as their voice. "You think $200,000 will break me?" she asked, her voice rising, not in anger but in defiance. "You think it will silence me? I've been underestimated my whole life, and every time, I've risen stronger." The room was electric now, the air thick with the weight of her conviction. She paused, letting the silence amplify her words, her eyes never leaving Roberts. The Chief Justice shifted slightly, his composure still intact but tested, as if her gaze had pierced some unseen armor. Crockett's voice softened, but not in retreat. It was the softness of a storm gathering strength. "I'm not here to beg for mercy," she said. "I'm here to demand justice, and not just for me, but for every person who's been told their voice doesn't matter." The gallery erupted in murmurs, some in awe, others in disbelief, but all aware they were witnessing something extraordinary. Her words weren't just a defense, they were a manifesto, a call to arms for those who'd been marginalized, dismissed, or fined into submission. Roberts raised a hand, signaling for quiet, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of something in admiration, perhaps, or unease. Crockett stood tall, her presence commanding, as she prepared to deliver the heart of her reply, the words that would echo beyond the courtroom walls. Jasmine Crockett's voice filled the Supreme Court chamber, each word a carefully placed stone in the foundation of her defense. She leaned forward slightly, her hands resting on the podium, fingers tracing the wood as if drawing strength from it. "Chief Justice Roberts," she continued, "this fine isn't about a bank account. It's about a narrative. It's about painting me as reckless, as unworthy, as someone who can be bought or broken. But let me tell you who I am." She paused, letting the weight of her presence settle over the room, her gaze sweeping across the justices, the clerks, the reporters, and the spectators in the gallery. Her story unfolded like a tapestry, rich with detail and unyielding in its truth. She spoke of her childhood in St. Louis, where she watched her mother work 2 jobs to keep the lights on, teaching her the value of resilience. She described the late nights in law school, poring over case law while classmates with trust funds slept soundly, and the early mornings in Dallas, defending clients who couldn't afford anyone else. "I didn't come to Congress to play small," she said, her voice steady but laced with passion. "I came to fight for the people who sent me there, the ones who don't have a voice in rooms like this." The gallery was riveted, some leaning forward,